Welcome back to Bullets and Brass. Today we are talking about why there's been a trend for the last 50 years toward 9mm, essentially smaller caliber, higher capacity, versus the original trend in the US at least, bigger calibers, lower capacity, more oomph per shot. This isn't just true in the casual shooter world where skill and recoil management are limiting factors. This is true even at high-level competition, special forces groups, just in general, law enforcement. There's been an overall trend. And we're going to go into some reasons, and this is 100% me speculating. I am not saying I've done any real research on this. There's been no studies, just saying this is a theory. First one, easy one. This is let's get this out of the way. Police experience in the 70s and 80s with mostly drug-related issues pushed them toward higher capacity. Not necessarily because they thought it was going to give them better stopping power, but because they were dealing with opponents, at least in the big departments in big cities. They were dealing with people with machine pistols. They were dealing with people with high-capacity 9mm. They felt undergunned. Whether the math on this really works out and whether they're right, that was the thought. It was the person shooting at us has 17 rounds or 30 or 50. I need more ammo. And I mean, let's face it, most law enforcement officers are not particularly great shots. More ammo meant they were in the fight longer, right? This is why 40 became popular. They were looking for still stopping power because obviously you want to actually stop the threat, but more capacity as well. So when 40 came out, boom. Now this predates the trend toward having a carbine, an AR-15 usually, or an M16 in some cases, in the car. That didn't become common until later. You figure you got a shotgun in the car, in a bracket, or in the trunk. Maybe you have any body armor. Your pistol's your primary firearm. If you're getting into a firefight with some bad guys, that's what you got. Sam Brown belts only have so much room. So if you're carrying magazines, how many total rounds can you carry? Well, if you can carry 2 spare magazines in your pouches and have it be convenient, that's 3 total, 1 in the gun, 2 spares, right? If they're 9mm, double stack, that's a lot of ammo. We have seen it over and over. Overall, the popularity of things very often depends on military adoption, police adoption when we're talking firearms. The military switched to the M9, the police switched to various Wonder 9s, suddenly everybody else was looking at it too. Now, the second one, pretty easy. Competition became more focused on higher round count games. Historically, there were a lot of bullseye style competitions, bowling pin competition, things where the impact either mattered or didn't at all, and where diameter could help you. If you're doing bullseye competition, you just have to cut that line, right? Well, I mean, 45 is an advantage over 9mm. And I think this is primarily a response to popularity as these things started being shown on TV more. They started being put on video. They started becoming advertisements for gun manufacturers rather than local competition. It's more exciting. Watching bowling pin shooting and watching bullseye competition is about as exciting as watching paint dry. Even if you enjoy the sport, if you are not there personally and you know the people involved, it's boring. Even if you are there personally and know the people involved, other than razzing people or cheering for your friend, it's boring. High speed, high volume, yeah, that's fun. That's exciting. That's go, 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 go. It's more dynamic. And I think that attracted more people, which then feeds into number one with higher round count, 9mm. Now we get to some more speculation. I'm reading my notes here. I think there's plenty of room for debate in this. We're not just talking about whether they've influenced the change, but whether they're good reasons. Bullet performance has changed over the years. It has gotten better, where 9mm now is at least as good as 45 used to be, okay? So if 45 in say 1970 or 1980 with hollow points was considered good, right? That was a good enough standard. 9mm is not better than that. It just is. Now, you can argue that there's still situations where that's not true. If the hollow point doesn't work, you still have a smaller hole. Like, certainly, there's plenty of that. But what I'm saying is that in general, for self-defense and police purposes, 9mm with good ammo now meets the standards from the prior era larger ammo. So if that was good enough, why would you use the old ammo? I mean, the old caliber. Why would you use the larger caliber that's less ammo, harder to shoot well? Why would you do it? Now, obviously, if the bullet performance has improved for 9mm, it's also improved for 45. So, sure. But if your stop percentages, your one-shot stop percentages are already getting into things where bullet performance wasn't the primary criteria for the failure, yeah. That makes it really hard to argue you should have gone with 45 instead of 9, because the guy hopped up on cocaine, and it's like, well, it doesn't matter how big a round you put through them. There's enough oxygen in their system, there's enough chemicals in their system that they're still functional until it shuts down. And it takes a while no matter how hard you hit them, unless you get a headshot. And even some of those guys stuck around for a little bit. So this makes 9mm way more attractive. It's not that it's necessarily better on a round by round basis, but if you've got more rounds and you're going, well, if I'm carrying a smaller gun with less recoil, it's more convenient, and I'm getting the same power, great. Particularly as more and more people conceal carry a really thin compact 9 with, say, 13 rounds. So, yes, you can do a revolver with 357 Magnum, even 44 Magnum. You can do an officer size 45 ACP. But if you want to go a little smaller, if you are not up to shooting those calibers in that small gun, which a large portion of the population isn't, 9mm does well. Now, here's where it gets weird. 9mm doesn't do so well in rural areas. I've got multiple friends who have told me stories, horror stories basically, of I shot that hog a dozen times. It eventually died. We found all the hits. I did not get a kill shot. It basically was ineffective on that hog. Yeah, that's scary. Bigger, heavier bullets have a character of their own. They have a value that is beyond just the straight math in terms of ability to put things down. Part of that is that when they start hitting things, they carry on through. 9mm, you hit things, and unless you're talking hard objects like steel, 9mm doesn't penetrate as well as 45, all else being equal. It's the weight, it's the mass. If you want better penetration with 9mm, you go to 147s. Well, there's trade-offs for that, right? So most of the people I know who, shooting a hog is a regular thing with their handgun. That's a situation that comes up. They tend to still be 44 Magnum. They tend, 45 Colt, 45 ACP. They want the bigger, heavier bullet with more momentum, not just more KE. And it is a thing, right? Now, on the other side of that, the folks I know who are going, I want to stockpile X number of rounds and this many magazines, and I need 3 spare guns for other people, blah, 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 right? Prepping side of this. 9mm is cheaper. If you want to have, say, 10,000 rounds, and you're not as concerned about per round effectiveness, it's a volume thing. You want to have an X number of ammo. 9mm is going to be cheaper. It just is. So, even if you're reloading, 9mm is going to be cheaper. On the other hand, if you're going on a per round effectiveness scale, 44 Magnum may be your cheapest option, because you go, well, if I need 1,000 rounds of 9mm, we'll just make that easy for the math. Maybe you only need 300 for 44 Magnum. You're going to shoot less in practice. Each round, when you hit, if it's not practice, is significantly more effective. Your behavior when shooting, when it's not practice, is going to be a little more methodical. You're not going to be as inclined to go bang, 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 bang. It's going to be bang, bang. Because the first shot wasn't quite center mass, you take that second shot, right? But it's all cute in theory. Real world, 9mm is winning this fight. And I think it's not for bad reasons overall. I just think you have to be aware of your own scenario, your own needs, and like I always say, your own priorities. For me, both. The answer is both. Anyway, take care, have fun, stay safe, keep shooting, guys.